We've almost made it through the January transfer window. Welcome to the Football Breakdown's Fantasy EFL Gameweek 26 preview. I'm Matthew South.
And I'm Ian Cooper.
Yes, hello and welcome. Game week 26, we are well through the season now, just a few more days left of the transfer window too, as I mentioned, and then we'll be certain to know who's on what team for the rest of the season. As literally last week, I was caught out by a transfer midweek and I missed out on some points. So I guess we'll just dive straight into last week. Ian, how did you get on?
Well, from the first round of that game week, it started really poorly, if I'm honest. I only really had my two Charlton players, the goalkeeper and Lloyd Jones, getting the clean sheets. And apart from that, everyone had a really poor week. Notts County drew and Rotherham lost as well, so I lost a lot of points there. However, the second round of the game week, again, my two Charlton players had another clean sheet, so that was back-to-back. Really happy with that. Wilkes scored 11 points with a goal and an assist against Cambridge. I had David McGoldrick as my captain. He got 14 points. He got an assist from the first game week and nothing in the second, which is quite frustrating because he actually played really well over those 2 weeks. He just didn't, sorry, 2 games. He just didn't get the points to show for it, really. And Notts County managed to get they did get a 1 win. It was just a 1-0, so they didn't get any bonus points there, and Rotherham got a win as well. So, yeah, no, I finished on 99 points. Not too bad. It could have been a lot worse. I was really worried at the first round of fixtures. So, yeah, I'll take it. How about you, Matthew?
Yeah, I was not too bad either. 120 points for myself, which is good. It is second highest in the league, I think, in our league. So taking that definitely. Also, similarly had my first round of fixtures, not being blown away by much. Gillespie with some points, Keeley with some points, and Sarcevic turned out to be a really, really good pick across the two. But those 3 players were the only ones really pulling points for me after the first week. And then I also had Wilkes grab me some in his second game. George Abbott, who was my captain and my sub 0.1% pick, did end up with his 12 points in game 2 to add to a quiet game 1. He did get the assist and the clean sheet and the tackles, which is exactly what I was looking for, but I was kind of hoping for over 2 games rather than 1, but can't really complain. Sarcevic again, 8-point return in game 2 with an assist, but 2 assists and a goal in game 1 in their amazing 3-0 win over Walsall was brilliant. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, yeah, I had Taylor Asgard in my team, and he got 4 points in game 1, and at the time of recording, I knew of some interest, but I wasn't aware how quickly that Luton deal was going to move, and he was pulled from the line. Well, not pulled from the lineup, but he wasn't in the squad on Tuesday, and later that evening was announced as a Luton player. So just leaving points on the board there, I feel like had I have known that transfer was closer, I wouldn't have risked it. But it is what it is. So yeah, and then same teams, Rotherham and Notts County, disappointing game 1s, but made up for it in game 2. So not too many complaints come the end of it. It's one of those where 120 points looks pretty high in the league, and I'm still there, I've still left points on the board. So, can't complain too much, but in my head, I'm still a little bit disappointed.
And I can tell you you won't be disappointed as me. I think I picked the worst sub 0.1 pick we've ever done. I went for Albert Adoma because obviously Nathan Lowe got recalled. Started both games. He ended up with 3 points over the 2 games, just purely from minutes played, nothing else.
Nice. Well, to be fair, you say that's the worst one. I did once pick Franco, who didn't even play, and I forgot to switch him out.
Yeah,
so you at least beat that one, But yeah, that is disappointing. I think Walsall as a whole were just disappointing this week. So, I feel like going forward, it's almost like while they're missing a striker to replace Lowe, it's almost taking a step back on them as they've hit a little bit of rocky form, got some tough fixtures. I'm sure they'll get through the other side anyway. So, they're certainly an interesting case study right now for fantasy in terms of looking at them and their players while they're coming through some tough form, as they've been brilliant throughout this season. So moving into this week then, we decided before the show, so there's 10 teams on a double game week. There's 5 games Tuesday and Wednesday, as well as the full schedule this weekend. the double game weeks fall in the Championship and League Two. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on Championship usual format, League Two usual format, and we're going to leave League One this week. But we are going to pick our sub point one picks from League One, so we do cover that league. Just as the gameplay happens, people are going to focus on doubles. So we don't want to waste your time and our time suggesting players
Yeah.
in League One that people aren't really going to focus on. So we will cover it, but not in too much. We're not going to give you 4 selections this week, just the 2. So yeah, we think that's the best way to do it. So without further ado, should we kick off in the Championship?
Yeah, and I'll take us away with our goalkeeper pick. So for goalkeepers, we both know that you are basically chasing for the clean sheet points, and we have both said before it's quite a low ceiling for points for keepers can collect. You get the clean sheet, you might get some bonus saves, but apart from that, you're not going to get some really, really high scores. So it is essential to pick a keeper that has a double game week. And whilst there is James Trafford and Ilya Meslier available, I'm going to make a good case for Jamie Cummings, a slightly left field pick. But I think there's a good chance I can get points here with people not opting to pick him. He has 8 clean sheets in 29 appearances, which is very impressive. He's still quite a young goalkeeper in respects to how many seasons he's played so far. Rowett's had a really strong influence on how much more solid Oxford look defensively. And Cummins is benefiting with that, with less saved shots per match since he's come in as head coach. The first game is at home to Bristol City, which is maybe not as favourable. Look, we have been banging on about Twine and Mehmeti looking really good lately. But Oxford have been really good as well as limiting really influential players that they've come up against. And then for the next game, they have Burnley away. And I genuinely think you can make a really strong case that Oxford are more likely to score than Burnley are, which makes me feel a little bit more confident going in for Cumming, especially for that game, particularly over Trafford. Never mind how well Trafford's been lately. Burnley in their last 6 games, 4 of them have finished 0-0. So if you could argue, if you go for either keeper here, you could win either way.
Yep, absolutely. I was so certain you were going to go with James Trafford, even with your speech at the beginning about keepers having a ceiling. He seems to be that double penalty save game the other week, be the one who's been able to break that point ceiling.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, I fully back Cumming, as I have gone with an Oxford defender myself. Such was I wanted to give us some diversity, and instead I've followed suit on the same team again. No, I've gone for Greg Lee. I thought it was a bit of a different option because Oxford have some really good defenders on this game. You've got Brown and you've got Hellick, who's just come in, scored a goal, looks solid. But Greg Lee is someone who, we've kind of overlooked a little bit as well, but he is having a pretty solid season too. He's 0% selected, but he's a 4.7 point average player. Under Rowett, though, his average is actually 6.4 points. Last 3 games, 9, 9, 10 points, 19 clearances in that time, a goal and a clean sheet or 2. So, he's picking up solid returns with and without clean sheets under Rowett. He's also in the double game week, as we said, against Bristol City and Burnley. I share that opinion that the away game to Burnley or has 0-0 to me written all over that. 2 teams who, away from home, especially for Oxford, and Burnley at home, leave a lot to be desired going forward. So I can definitely see that one being a pretty tight contest, which favours us with the defensive picks. Obviously playing left back as well. Per 90, he creates 0.96 chances, 0.61 successful crosses. And then he also has 4 goals this season. He's against Luton, he popped up in the box with a finish from a cross from the right. He was in the box to turn it in off of that left wing. He's scored 3 other goals. He's really getting involved. All of their defenders are proven to be goal threats full stop, and it doesn't just end at the centre backs. The full backs are exactly the same. So I really do think that he's someone who almost offers that differential to Brown, who is quite high picked, and to Hellick, who is quite high picked. So I do like Greg Lee. Also on the Bristol City side of things, they've actually failed to score in 4 of their last 7 away games. As good as they've been at home, there is certainly a good chance of that clean sheet for Oxford this weekend.
Lovely. And I'll move us on to the midfielders. So I've been wanting to talk about this player for a while, but I've been waiting for a certain striker to come back from injury to feel more confident in picking this player. And I've gone for Emiliano Marcondes, who is currently selected at 0%. I'm assuming that's because the Championship didn't have a double game week as opposed to the other leagues. But I did mention him a few months ago, actually, and he's been scoring really well lately. So Norwich won 5-1 against... Norwich won 5-1 against Swansea, with Marcondes scoring a goal and claiming an assist. And I think this run could really continue with Sargent now back in the side and instantly firing. However, I want to bring up a bit of an insurance here as well. So in the 2 games before that, Norwich lost both of those 2-0. And for someone who's a goal-scoring midfielder, you could think this is a disaster. But Marcondes actually scored 10 points in both of those games as well, with interceptions and key passes. So that gets me really excited for this selection. It's a player with some serious quality on the ball, but he has that drive and hunger to do some exceptional off-the-ball work as well.
Yeah, no, definitely a solid pick. I'm excited as well with Norwich's attack when their new signing Jurasek is ready to play. Obviously, Sainz is back. It definitely looks more reinvigorated now than it did a few weeks ago with Sainz missing and kind of no real forward option. Obviously, Sargent back from injury as well. Brilliant. So, yeah, I think they're definitely going to start stepping it up again, and hopefully for them they get some more consistency across the board. My attacking pick then, and I'm going to stick with a double game week theme here. I'm going to take Manor Solomon from Leeds. Now, I feel like picking a Leeds striker is just like trying to pick a name out of a hat each week. They kind of know which four that Daniel Farke is going to prefer, but the issue is that none of them are too consistent week on week. Solomon's averaging 3.9 points. The other week I suggested Peru in a double game week, and he did nothing in the double game week. So it's just getting it like it's one of those where Leeds will win and Leeds will score goals, but who is scoring in 2 games for them? Well, no one really. That's the issue. But Solomon himself, like prior to the Burnley game though, he had 7, 7, and 10 points, 2 goals and assists across that run. Plenty of key passes and shots on targets as well. It's 5 goals and 5 assists for the season. He's coming off of that left wing. He's someone who's pretty direct. He can drive the ball across the face of goal. He also wants to come in and shoot. If the attack's down the right hand side, he's getting into the box. You know, he's one of these like more like the wide forward mold than the winger, which is kind of what you want when you're picking one of these players who isn't going to play as a natural number 9. 1.91 shots per 90 is a little low, but it's just under 2 chances created per 90 as well, which is decent, and 1.03 successful crosses. He's exceeding his XG just about, so solid finisher, we know that. And 5 touches in the opposition box shows that he is getting involved further up the pitch, which is where we want him. Fixtures are Cardiff at home and Coventry away. Cardiff have not kept a clean sheet away from home since October. Coventry have picked up some form though, but again, this is a tough test for them. It all kind of comes back as well, and I've said this so many times. It's not very. Everything else we kind of say has a number around it. This is more just. This kind of like goes against that, but this is just games that Leeds have to win if they're going to win the title. You know, this is the time of the season where it's not exactly make or break, but it's like this is where you need to establish yourself as the top team in the league, because certainly if Sunderland and Sheffield United and Burnley are all within this title fight as well, you do not want to be giving anyone a sniff of an opening up top. So Leeds will be looking at this and thinking there's got to be 6 points here, and therefore they're going to have to score goals to do that. So I'm going with Solomon.
Yeah, and I can see why you've wanted to go for a Leeds forward. Like you said, it is really hard to pick because two of the effective players, Brendan Aronson and Dan James, are down as midfielders, so you can't pick those. And then you see a player like Wilfred Nonto and you go, oh, he's got exceptional quality, like maybe he could do something. He hasn't started this month at all. He hasn't started since the end of last year. And then, like you said, you've got Prue as well, who just seems to be blanking lately. So Solomon's a really good pick. I've not really seen his recent run of form, but yeah, when you say you look at his goal involvements nearly every other game, apart from that 0-0 against Burnley, which, let's be honest, just didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm perfectly happy to look at Solomon's form and get rid of, or any Leeds player's form and get rid of that Burnley game and just be like, let's pretend that didn't happen. So yeah, it's definitely it's definitely one of those. But I really want to get behind a Leeds player, but there's not a standout option. So you kind of have to. I don't want to force one in, but I definitely think there's a good case for Solomon. So, skipping League One, we're going to head into League Two now, and I'm going to take us away with my goalkeeper selection. So, in goal, I've gone for Grant Smith from Bromley. Again, double game week goalkeeper. Out of the four, he's the one I kind of prefer, especially Solwood hit a bit of poor form, and Young did not play in the last game. Jones played instead, so I don't really want to be guessing the Salford keeper this week. So Grant Smith himself, though, absolutely solid. Solid goalkeeper. His 77 saves in 27 games has given him some good bonus points. 7 clean sheets across the season. A 68.8 save percentage is fine. You know, it's a statistic that can be misleading. You know, like you think the save percentage is going to be high, but if you face less shots, but shots of higher quality, it's going to be lower. So, listen, it's is what it is. It's certainly not a bad standard by any means. He's also interestingly faced 5 penalties this season. He hasn't saved one yet, but I'm certainly thinking that sooner or later, if they keep giving away penalties, he's going to get a chance. It's just chances to save one. So listen, if that happens, then brilliant. Like, you know, compared to other teams, that 5 penalty mark is certainly higher than others. So it's certainly giving us more chance here. The two fixtures they've got Grimsby, who have lost 4 in a row away from home, and Salford, who have not won in 3, which is what is leaning me towards the Bromley goalkeeper in Smith. I think Bromley have picked up some football. They went on a really good run, put themselves back in the playoff picture. The last few games have been quite tough for them, but you know, having coming into this double game week, they'll definitely be looking at that table, thinking 2 good results here puts them straight back into the playoff picture after a tough few weeks.
Yeah, and the same for the championship. It's funny how goalkeeper and defenders come from the same team. So I'll give you a little backstory here. So, like you said, there's 4 teams playing a double game week. And for defenders, I love looking at high clearance numbers as well as clean sheets. So for that same reason, I'm avoiding Salford because I just don't want to bank on them going away to Walsall and getting a clean sheet, despite Walsall obviously losing their last result. Other players that have suited the metric is Omar Schwimney, who we have raved about before, but he's serving a ban after receiving a red card last week. So I'm picking out his partner, Callum Reynolds, as my pick for this week. He's been in and out of the side ever since the turn of the year, but it was over the Christmas period where he really caught my eye as well. He was in the side consistently and scored 14 points, 15 points, 14 points, and then 9 points consecutively before dropping to the bench. In that 4-game run, he had 67 clearances. He's not particularly tall, but he wins over 4 aerial balls per 90, as well as winning 6.7 duels per 92. So really solid player. And I think with Shormy not coming in, I'd expect Reynolds to be in the centre of that 3, which just elevates his likelihood for clearances as well.
Yeah, probably definitely have a few solid defensive options. Just looking at a squad there, but yeah, I do like Reynolds, brings that experience as well. My midfielder pick then is actually not coming from the double game week. Instead, I've tried to look for someone different. The midfielder options on the double, none of them really took my fancy too much. So something a bit different here. I've gone for Liam Kinsella from Cheltenham, 0% selected, 5.3 point average. The thing that stands out for me is the interceptions, 32 interceptions this season, 1.64 per 90. And in particular, it's his performances in games against good teams. So against Notts County, he picked up 5 interceptions against them at home. So they've got Chesterfield this weekend. Very similar kind of side in terms of they're going to want to attack, they want to get forward, and you know, show their ability against the Cheltenham side. And seeing as we don't really care too much when we think of midfielder about the clean sheet side of things, Chesterfield can score all the goals they want, but if they keep trying to play through the phases, and Cancelo can pick up those clean sheets, then we're going to pick up points here. And it's happened, a few times. You're looking at like games against Salford, he's picked up multiple clean sheets. Games against Crew, interceptions. Sorry, games against Crew, multiple interceptions. He does have a couple of assists to his name as well. But also then you've got the likes of Carlisle, MK Dons. He's all grabbed, and Swindon. He's grabbed 3, 4 interceptions in those games. So I think this Chesterfield game is fitting that narrative of Cheltenham coming up against a good side, a good footballing side, or a side who try to play good football, and therefore are going to offer him the chance to pick up interceptions.
Yeah, I like this pick, and it's like you said, he's part of a midfield too, well, especially a deeper line too. It reminds me a bit of like the Millwall's lineup with Denor and Saville. However, the advantage you've got for Kinsella is he's playing with Luke Young, who's more of like a creative, defensive midfielder. He likes to try and get forward. He tries to contribute to attacks, which really helps with Kinsella staying back, being that person that's going to get more interceptions. So yeah, really nice pick there. It's not a player that I've come really across, but no, I do like it. And moving into the forward pick, I've also gone for a player who just got in just for the one game this week. One interesting thing I was looking at the striker pick, if you filter the average points for forwards in League Two, Notts County have 3 of the top 4. And I'm someone that selects the wrong one each week, so I'm avoiding them. But the issue with that is, outside of these players, you have strikers like Andy Cook and Matty Stevens, but then there's a real sort of drop off in consistency. So I'm going for a player that I believe you mentioned, Matt, before. And even though I don't think it's a very good matchup, I'm siding with Harry Smith, who averages over 1 goal every 2 games. He's on a scoring run of 3 in his last 3. I'll happily accept the argument that this streak could end very easily, but I like backing players in this division who are in form. So onto their opponents, they're playing against Carlisle, and Carlisle are a team that are struggling, but they're quite resolute. They've only conceded once in their last 4 games, so I'm hoping this pattern continues, and it's Swindon's main man who scores the goal in this game.
Yeah, he's a very streaky striker. That doesn't do him justice, I feel like, in my head. Earlier in the season, he went like on a 4 or 5 game goal scoring streak. So if he does the same here, you're going to be reaping those rewards. Yeah, very clinical striker, and really really key to this Swindon side, who are, like you say, have had an upturn in results. Much to my surprise, I'll say anyway.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd be surprised if the consistency stays there, but they're looking a lot more promising than when Ian Holloway came in, at least.
Definitely. So then, shall we move into our League One sub 0.1% picks for the week?
Yeah, of course we can. And do you want me to kick off with it?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so basically, I couldn't look anywhere else when I saw this man score 24 points in the last game week against Lincoln. It's Oliver Casey. It's not the goal that he scored that interested me, but he made 25 clearances, 3 blocks, and 2 tackles in the game. He plays at home against Charlton, who haven't been so dominant on the road, but it's important that they are in form. So I need their attack to look dangerous. So Casey can be heavily involved, allowing him to clock up the points to make up for the fact he's only going to be playing once this game week. Obviously, like everyone in League One, so I want to maximise it. So yeah, I'm going for Oliver Casey.
Very good. Yeah, I do feel like there are a lot of really fun options this week. Certainly, you've got some of the Leyton Orient lads who are really high scoring last week because of their 6-2 win over Exeter. But
however, their fixture is vile.
Yeah, they're facing Stockport, which is definitely a tough one. Stockport themselves have Macaulay Southern Hales as well, who was someone last week who I had written down as a potential sub 0.1 pick and backed him out for Abbott. And whilst Abbott did well, he certainly did not do 24 points well. So that was annoying, but it is what it is. But listen, there's quite a few fun ones, and I feel like I'm picking a very boring pick here. But I'm going for Ben Davis from Birmingham City. And the reason I'm doing this is more I'm going for consistency in one of these picks. They've got Rotherham at home, and really this is going down to the fact that Birmingham at home are just like a well-oiled machine. They've only conceded 6 goals in their 12 games. They're winning a lot of games to 0 at home, and I can really just see them grinding out a 1 or a 2-0 win here. Ben Davis himself is, averaging over 5 clearances a game. It's 10 clean sheets and 18 for him. Only two sub 9 point returns when he's kept a clean sheet as well. So this isn't just the 2 points to starting, 5 points for clean sheet player. He is getting defensive action points. Picked up some decent points in the 1-1 draw against Wrexham, but also 10-point games in his last two clean sheets, so against Huddersfield and against Exeter. So honestly, anything on those lines do me nicely. I definitely see him having to make some clearances against a Rotherham side who should offer more than the Exeter side. So those bonus points should be up. But I also think Rotherham are going to struggle to break down a Birmingham side that so many other teams have already struggled to break down. So yeah, Ben Davis for me, I feel like it's a bit boring, a bit safe, but I just think this really could be a 10-point banker player.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I looked at this player as well. The one thing that did put me off is actually the reason that you just said. I don't think Rotherham are going to break Birmingham down, so I'm really worried it will turn into a long ball running race. And I don't really want to back any defender that has to go against Wills or Andre Green. I'm not over the one weakness I do see with Birmingham. It's not very often because they put on so much pressure, but like look at the defenders they've got in. They've just brought in Grant Hanley as well. These players aren't exactly blessed with pace. And I know League One isn't sort of like the birthplace for a lot of pace with forwards, but Rotherham have two of them. And I just have this vision of backing Davis and just seeing him get absolutely smoked by one of the Rotherham players. And that's just the vision that I have. That's all.
It is definitely a risk of this pick. Definitely, I do think the fixtures this week in League One, they're so interesting from like a watching perspective, but from a fantasy perspective, they're so annoying. We mentioned it before the pod that you've got Orient and Leighton Orient versus Stockport County. Just like what a fixture that is right now, but it straight away just puts me off any of their players. Reading against Bolton is such an interesting one. It could be Steven Schumacher's Bolton by the time we get to kick off.
Yeah.
So Reading at home have been brilliant, but then a resurgent Bolton side puts me off of that one. The Blackpool Charlton game, I know you've gone there, and maybe the goalless side angle of that one is definitely a big drawing point for picking a player, but I'd definitely be backing defenders over attackers in that one. And yeah, there's just a few others where I'm just looking at it being like, oh, I'm just not too sure. And then the other thing is you like kind of have to think about transfers still. Like this is the final weekend before the window. Like certainly some players I'm not saying and he's high on loads of people's lists, but you've got like Milan Akali for Exeter, who grabbed two in the week, is on a good scoring run. He is subject to a bid from Luton, apparently.
Yeah, I did read that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you've got players like him who could be moving. Obviously, Richard Kone's under bids from Luton, so there's quite a lot of players in this league who are being targeted by the league above, which also lends to like another layer of why we've left out League One this week, because more than the other two leagues, certainly it's the uncertainty around it.
Yeah.
So I think we've both given you two solid defensive options there for League One.
Can I give you one more option just to make up for the fact that we're not talking about League One? I might be taken away from a pick next week if he has a really good week, but I just want to mention one player. Look, they're playing against Wycombe Wanderers. That's why I didn't mention him, but Joshua Stokes is on the form of his life. His last 3 games, he's got 2 assists and 3 goals, like 5 goal involvements in 3 games is wild. He's looking really good for this Cambridge side who really need him to look good. It was just and he was a 0% pick as well, so he was really in selection there. I just wanted to bring him up because it was only fair. But it's the fact they play Wycombe away, I just bottled it there. So I just wanted to say that just before he scores a hat-trick in this game to be like, look, I was here for it, I just didn't do it.
Absolutely. And he's a player that I am a massive fan of, and always keep an eye on. So we'll give a quick rundown of our teams going into the week. I can start with this one. In goal, and probably my captain for the week is James Trafford. Just too good to leave out in my opinion. And then back 3 this week, because I feel like just favouring defenders at the moment. Ben Davis, as I just mentioned, and then Jaden Bogle and Egan Riley are my 2 picks at the moment. Although I do kind of want to squeeze Greg Lee back in there at some point. So could well change that around. My midfield two at the moment, Dan James and Cameron Brannigan. And then at the moment up front, I have Hakeeb Adelaken for
For
Salford.
Salford. Right, nice. I've also gone for the same formation as you, but I feel like I've stuck a bit truer to some of the players that I've selected. I've gone for Jamie Cummins in goal, and obviously Oliver Casey, as mentioned earlier, in the sub point one pick. I've gone for Callum Reynolds, and I've also gone for CJ Egan Riley. Look, love him, and I can't pick him in my sub point one pick anymore because he's rose up to 0.2. I believe that might be because Matthews picked him, but look, I probably won't get to use him in that selection again. Midfield two, I've gone for Emiliano Marcondes, and I've also gone for Victor Torp. There's a double game week of Swansea City away and Leeds United at home, so hoping for a few goal involvements in the first game and then lots of interceptions in the second game. And then up front, I don't really know how to explain this. I just know, look, he scored 4 goals. I think it's 4 goals this year, but he has scored a hat-trick. I've gone for Bobby Camwer for Newport County. They play Barrow and Morecambe, who are also just in an absolute state. I just really hope these goals I just hope there's lots of goals here, and I just really hope he gets on a couple of them.
Yeah. I'm literally looking at we probably picked the two forwards who have combined for 8 goals so far this season. I'm hoping Adelaken, who has been injured for quite a bit this season, just shows his quality because, in my opinion, he is still too good for League Two, even though he hasn't been able to feature much and just has that advantage of I just feel like he could score from anywhere in that Salford side. And yeah, for Camworth, for you, take away that hat trick. I mean, it's a brave pick, but again, high potential, like against two poor sides. So,
I mean,
no,
if you break it down, he's got 4 goals in his last 7 games. They happened in 2 of those games, but he has 4 goals in 7. That doesn't sound too bad to me.
no, absolutely not. So, well, here's hoping for some solid returns this week. And as always, when we do finalize our teams, they will be on our socials. So you can follow us on X at FVBD Pod and on Bluesky at Football Breakdown. So now for the final part of the show, as always, it's our team picks. Myself and Ian will be picking a £5 bet on our 2 teams to win their first game of the game week. So as always, that part is for over 18s only, and please gamble responsibly. But Ian, who are your 2 teams for the week?
So the first team that I've selected is Leeds United. As I said, they've got Cardiff at home and Coventry away. I've used them 3 times. I've only got 2 available choices left. However, I just thought when they've got the double game week and these 2 fixtures, I have to use them. Even if I'd used 4, and this was my last time I could pick them, I'd absolutely pick them for this week. The other game I've gone for is Queen's Park Rangers. The first game is against Millwall away, and then they have Blackburn at home. I've watched both of Millwall's games last week, where they both won 1-0. They weren't very inspiring. Ivanovic on that first game, it was a wonder strike, but they weren't really that great. And I think of the structure of QPR, they are dangerous, especially away from home. They're actually really good. So I fancy that here. And my £5 double returns me £22.65.
Very good. Yep, I've also joined you on the Leeds pick. Very, very similar reasons and scenario. I've used them 3 times, so this is my 4th time using them. I backed out of using them a few weeks ago, so I feel like this week is the time to cash back in on that Leeds selection for myself. My other pick is Oxford United. They've got the home game against Bristol City. They've won all their games so far at home under Rowett, so Bristol City, who have been pretty poor away from home recently, I don't see any reason why Oxford can't go and win that game. Their second game of the game week is against Burnley away from home. And whilst, I don't see Oxford winning that game, I also think that they are going to put up a really good fight and that they can definitely draw that game. And if they draw that game, it's more than likely going to be 0-0, which favours a 5-point return instead of a 9-point. We're not really losing out too much. It is, as it's a double game week, it's almost like those are just bonus points. So, Oxford for me, the first game against Bristol City and the Leeds first game against Cardiff, the double of that returns £19.40. So I'm just back under profit. Ian, you're still on a healthy just under £50 profit for the year.
Lovely.
So that brings us to the end of the show. Next week, we are going to bring you a slightly different format as well. Sorry, we will try and get the consistency down, but the different game weeks, it is tough, and it is an FA Cup weekend next weekend as well, which could put some issue. Well, certainly some sticky situations for the game week anyway, but we are thinking of doing a transfer special where all the players we're going to suggest to you are going to be transferred players from this window, or even loan recalled players from this window. Cough cough, Nathan Lowe, cough cough. But yeah, we're thinking of doing something like that, so tune in next week for a very, very similar episode, but very different concepts in our player picks, which we are excited to do. Yeah, as always, follow us on our socials to keep up to date with our teams through the week. And thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Matthew.
Take it easy.